AITA for leaving my mill at the gate after she kicked me off my own trip. I spent a year saving for our dream vacation, but my mother-in-law decided I wasn't welcome. She didn't realize I held all the cards and the keys. I stood in the middle of Terminal 4, clutching my boarding pass so hard the paper began to crinkle. The fluorescent lights overhead were humming, a low, buzzing sound that felt like it was drilling directly into my skull. My mother-in-law, Beatrice, was standing 3 feet away from me. She looked perfect, not a hair out of place. Her silk scarf was draped elegantly over her shoulder, and she was smiling. But it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just won a game I didn't even know we were playing. "It's for the best, Maya," she said. Her voice was as smooth as glass and just as sharp. "Mark needs a real family vacation, a chance to bond with his mother and sister without distractions." I looked at my husband, Mark. He wouldn't look at me. He was staring at the floor, studying the pattern of the airport carpet like it was the most interesting thing in the world. "Mark?" I whispered. My voice sounded small, fragile. "She's right, babe," he muttered. "It's just for this once. You've been so stressed lately. Maybe a week alone at home is what you actually need." I felt like someone had just dumped a bucket of ice water down my spine. Stress? I was stressed because I had worked 60-hour weeks for a year to pay for this trip. I was stressed because I had spent months researching villas in Tuscany, booking the wine tours, reserving the private chef. I had paid for every single cent of this vacation, the flights, the lodging, the car rentals, everything. And now, standing at the gate, 30 minutes before boarding, I was being told I wasn't invited. But what Beatrice didn't know, and what Mark had clearly forgotten, was that I wasn't the same woman I was when we got married 3 years ago. I wasn't the girl who apologized for taking up space. I wasn't the girl who let Beatrice tell her what color her wedding flowers should be. I took a deep breath. The air in the airport tasted like jet fuel and desperation. "Okay," I said. Beatrice blinked. She looked almost disappointed that I wasn't putting up a fight. "Okay?" She repeated. "If that's what you want," I said, tucking my boarding pass into my pocket. "I'll go home." Mark finally looked up. There was a flicker of guilt in his eyes, but mostly, there was relief. He thought he had escaped the conflict. He thought he could have his cake and eat it too. He thought he could let his mother bully his wife and still have a 5-star vacation. He was wrong. "Have a great flight," I said. I turned around and walked away. I didn't look back. I could feel Beatrice's smug gaze on my back. I could imagine her leaning over to Mark and whispering about how unreasonable I was being. But as I reached the escalator, I pulled my phone out of my pocket. My fingers were flying across the screen. I had the airline app open before I even reached the ground floor. I hit Manage Booking. I saw the 4 names listed: Maya, Mark, Beatrice, and Mark's sister, Chloe. I checked the refund policy on the tickets. Because I had paid for the Platinum Flexes package, I could cancel any ticket up to 10 minutes before departure for a full refund. I felt a surge of cold, dark adrenaline. I clicked on Beatrice's name, cancel. I clicked on Chloe's name, cancel. Then, I looked at Mark's name. My heart twinged for a second. I thought about our wedding. I thought about the promises he made. Then I thought about him standing there, letting his mother tell me I was a distraction. Cancel. The screen flashed. Cancellation successful. $12,400 will be refunded to your original payment method. But I wasn't done. I pulled up the villa reservation in Tuscany. It was a stunning farmhouse with an infinity pool overlooking the vineyards. I had been dreaming of sitting on that patio with a glass of Chianti. I hit the chat button for the property manager. "Hello, this is Maya. I need to cancel the reservation for this evening. I understand there is a 50% cancellation fee. Please process the remaining refund immediately." Done. Next, the private chef. Next, the car rental. Within 5 minutes, the entire vacation had been erased. It didn't exist anymore. I walked out of the terminal and into the humid afternoon air. The taxi stand was crowded, but I didn't care. I felt lighter than I had in years. I checked my watch. They would be boarding in 10 minutes. They would walk up to the gate agent. They would hand over their phones to be scanned. And that's when the world would fall apart. I got into a cab and gave the driver my address. As we pulled away from the curb, my phone started to vibrate in my lap. It was Mark. I ignored it. 10 seconds later, it vibrated again. Mark. Then, a text message. "Maya, there's a glitch at the gate. The agent says our tickets are invalid. Can you check the app?" I stared at the message. I didn't reply. The phone rang again. This time it was Beatrice. I declined the call. I opened my messages and saw a flurry of texts coming in. "Maya, pick up. We're going to miss the flight. The agent says the reservation was canceled by the primary traveler." "What did you do?" "Maya, This isn't funny. Beatrice is crying. Fix this. I leaned my head back against the seat of the cab and closed my eyes. I could picture the scene at the gate. Beatrice, her face turning that specific shade of blotchy red she gets when she's angry. Mark, frantically waving his phone at a confused gate agent. Chloe, probably filming the whole thing for her Instagram story, complaining about bad service. The cab pulled into my driveway 20 minutes later. Our house, the house I paid the mortgage on, was quiet. I walked inside, dropped my bags in the hallway, and went straight to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of the expensive bourbon Mark usually keeps for special occasions. I sat down at the kitchen table and finally picked up my phone. I had 42 missed calls and 115 text messages. The most recent one was from Mark. We're stranded. The flight took off. Beatrice is having a panic attack. We're in a taxi coming back to the house. You better have a good explanation for this. I smiled. I didn't have a good explanation. I had a perfect one. I went to the front door and turned the deadbolt. Then, I went to the garage and grabbed the spare set of keys to Beatrice's car. She had left it in our driveway, so she wouldn't have to pay for airport parking. I backed her pristine, white SUV out of the driveway and parked it 3 blocks away on a side street. Then, I came back, went into the guest room, and packed every single thing Beatrice had left there. Her expensive lotions, her silk pajamas, her special orthopedic pillow. I put them all in a trash bag and set them on the porch. I did the same for Mark's things. I didn't pack his whole life, just enough for a week, because that's how long I planned on being gone. I booked myself a ticket, not to Italy. I wanted somewhere where no one knew my name, somewhere with white sand and blue water and absolutely no mother-in-laws. Turks and Caicos, departing in 4 hours. I was just finishing my bourbon when a car screeched into the driveway. I heard the doors slam. I heard the heavy, rhythmic thumping of Beatrice's heels on the pavement. Thump, thump, thump. Then, the pounding on the door began. Maya, open this door. It was Beatrice. She sounded like she was screaming through a megaphone. I walked to the door, but I didn't open it. I stood behind the wood, feeling the vibrations of her fists. Maya, I know you're in there. Mark's voice was lower, cracking with rage. What the hell were you thinking? You cost us thousands of dollars. I leaned in close to the door. Actually, Mark, I said loudly, I saved myself thousands of dollars. Since I was the one who paid for it, the pounding stopped for a split second. That's not the point. Beatrice shrieked. We were a family. You can't just cancel a trip because your feelings were hurt. You're right, Beatrice, I replied. I didn't cancel it because my feelings were hurt. I canceled it because you uninvited me from my own vacation. And since I'm a distraction, I figured I'd remove the distraction entirely, including the tickets and the villa. Open the door, Maya, Mark said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Let's talk about this like adults. We are talking, I said. I'm talking, and you're listening. Your stuff is on the porch. Beatrice, your car is, well, you'll find it eventually. It's within walking distance. You're kicking me out? Mark sounded genuinely shocked. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for, I said. A bonding experience. You, your mother, and your sister. No distractions. You have a whole week. Enjoy it. I heard Beatrice let out a sound that was half sob, half growl. I'll sue you, she screamed. I'll take everything. With what money, Beatrice? I asked. The money you don't have? Or the money Mark doesn't have because I pay all the bills? Silence. The kind of silence that feels like a victory. I walked away from the door. I went upstairs, grabbed my suitcase, and headed out the back door to my own car. As I drove away, I saw them in my rearview mirror. 3 people standing on a porch in the suburbs, surrounded by trash bags and shadow, looking at a house they could no longer enter. I reached the airport an hour later. I walked up to the same gate agent I had seen earlier. She looked tired. I handed her my new boarding pass. Heading to the islands? She asked, a small smile playing on her lips. Yes, I said. Traveling alone? I thought about the year of work, the years of biting my tongue, the years of being the agreeable wife. I looked at the plane waiting on the tarmac. No, I said. I'm traveling with someone I haven't seen in a long time. Oh? Who's that? I smiled. Myself. I boarded the plane. I sat in 1A, first class. As the wheels left the ground, I turned off my phone. I didn't need to hear their apologies. I didn't need to hear their threats. For the first time in 3 years, the only voice I could hear was my own, and she was telling me that I had done exactly the right thing. Powerful final ending line. They wanted a vacation without a distraction, so I became the one thing they could never ignore, the woman who stopped saying yes. Family dynamics can be a total nightmare, especially when boundaries are crossed. Do you think she went too far, or did the mill get exactly what she deserved? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories of people finally standing up for themselves, hit that subscribe button.